Tannehill is sacked. This time Dane Fletcher.
Hey.
This was the first down sack by Fletcher.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Oh. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me.
Welcome to Fletcher's Unfiltered Podcast, touching on all things fitness, business, and issues in Montana. All right, welcome to episode number 6, and I'm beyond thrilled to have our guest on, Tanner Sutton, the founder of Freefly, and really was hoping when I start a podcast to carve out a few hours of your time to have you on. So Tanner, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I brought a bottle of tequilas because we're not sponsored yet, but that's going to happen. And the tequila of choice, Tanner, would you help me with this one?
Yeah, we've got Casa Dragones, it sounds like.
That's where we're in it. Pretty nice bottle, I would say. Again, $80, $90 range. And for our viewers, we try and do a 1 out of 10. Well, I better give you one first here.
There we go. All right.
And we try to give it a 1 out of 10 rating, 10 being the best, 1 being the shittiest. So let's give it a sip and
all right,
feel her out. Let's give it a little feel out.
Smooth.
It is smooth.
It's really good.
And it tastes different than most tequilas that you have.
It does. Yeah, it has a good finish on it too. I do love tequila. I've had this one time. I think when we sold our house, our realtor gave us a bottle. It's the only time I've had
That's
it.
nice of them.
I'm not going to go rookie. I've seen plenty of Dave Barstool reviews, so I'm going to go 8.7.
8.7.
Yeah.
I like the rating. I'll ride with an 8.7 with you.
All right.
I think it's a great tequila. It's smooth.
It's really good.
Doesn't kick, and it's different. So many tequilas kind of taste the same now, where it kind of hits you in one way or another, and that doesn't at all. So 8.7 solid. So Dragones, you're doing it right. That's all we have to say. Okay, let's get off the tequila subject a little bit. You're from Montana. Your wife, Ristine, is from Montana. I met you guys both through the gym here, and you're from Billings. Ristine's from Missoula. Give me a little background on you. I want to dig in more on your parents also, how you got in the apparel industry and kind of just growing up in it.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to grow up in Montana. I was born and raised in Billings, not the prettiest side of the state. When I go back there, I kind of cringe, but it was a great place to grow up. My wife's from Missoula, and I grew up sports of my life. I played tennis, basketball, and golf in high school, played golf in college, and I met my wife playing junior tennis all around the Rockies, and she was a couple years older than me, and I go to tournaments and see her whipping my sister and all these people, and she was a cute blonde girl with long legs, and I had a huge crush, and then 20 years later, reconnected with her when she was living in Texas. So lots happened since then. I moved down to Charleston, started this business, which we'll jump into, but it's awesome being back in this state, my favorite place in the world, and love the pit, and so I'm glad this all worked out.
I'm beyond glad it's worked out as well. And you and Ristine are raising 2 young girls now?
Yep, we have 2 girls. They're both almost 4 and 7 next month, and it's coming from a place that was incredibly busy and chaotic to our home state. I know Bozeman's growing like crazy. Even people complain about traffic, which I'm like, this isn't traffic. It's just such a awesome place to be, and we love it. And so we're calling it home here again for about a year. We've been back, so it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you just dive in a little bit on your parents and how you grew up in the apparel world?
Yeah. So my parents, they had a business in Billings. They did custom artwork, t-shirts, hats for like resorts, national parks all around the country. So they were one of the biggest employers there. I think had 200 people at their height, and I did every job imaginable, from printing t-shirts to stacking boxes to washing screens. So got to know the business a little bit, and definitely my parents still, like, my dad stayed on our board until 3 years ago.
Really?
They were super instrumental in me starting my business. Just, the blocking and tackling of how you run a business, pay your bills on time, treat your people right, all those kind of things. And that's what really got me into it. That, and I was a fly fishing guide through college. That's kind of really that combined the two worlds, and that's how I launched Freefly. So it was a great upbringing, awesome living here, and then moved down to Charleston when my folks retired. They moved down to Hilton Head. My dad's from the South, so it was great to have them around. Good being back here, but have just learned a ton, and it was a great starting place for me in being an entrepreneur.
I think the apparel is so different. Not a lot of people know about the apparel world.
Yeah.
And that's why I really like to sit down with somebody like you that started a company from the ground up, everything like that, and knows about apparel. Because if you're a guy like me with a majority of business in Bozeman, Montana, in the US, you're going to the primary sites on Google and just saying like, okay, rush order tee, now just customize a shirt, or I've been going to a local hat company and just throwing some embroidery on it. But how do you even go about, that's where I really want to get into is like, you came up with this concept of these shirts, and how do you dig into, okay, I need to start sourcing this from other countries or get it created. How do you even go about it? Like, give me a little background of like what sparked your interest in getting into this yourself.
Yeah. I mean, when my parents sold their company in 2008, the best piece of advice I ever got from my dad was, hey, I'll stand behind you, whatever you do in business, but I don't recommend getting in the clothing world. And that's what I did. So I was like, it's all I know. So I finished my college up in Helena. I was a fishing guide, and I was like, man, I know fishing, I know clothing pretty well, and why am I guiding in this overbuilt, uncomfortable, one of those button-down fishing shirts that's overbuilt and uncomfortable? I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so I was like, sorry, Dad, I'm jumping in this world. And so I spent about 1.5 years doing R&D and was like, I got to find a more comfortable solution, something that's going to feel like that shirt in the back of your closet. It's so comfortable, but also wicks moisture and has these performance benefits. And so, I jumped in. I moved down to Charleston and actually tried. My goal, which is still a goal today, is to try to get everything made in the USA.
Cool.
I was like, I'm going to try to source this. And I found a little cut and sew factory outside of Charleston, and it was moving and grooving. It was all going great. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take at that point, my life savings, I think I had 20 grand, and poured it into a minimum order of like 3,000 shirts. And I was like, all right, let's do this. This guy had a contact. I found this blend of bamboo and polyester that felt like, man, this feels awesome. So the guy does it. 6 months later, it takes a long time to make our product. He calls me and he's like, hey, I got your first rolls of fabric in here. We're gonna cut and sew it. I want you to come up here. We have a small problem though. I was like, okay, what's the problem? And the rolls of fabric came with holes all over them. Oh. And I was like, great. This is how you start in the clothing world. It's like one thing after another. And at that point I was like, it was a lost cause. Like everyone was blaming everyone. I was like, okay, I got to lick my wounds here and go overseas. And so I was able to, thank goodness, the only way to make it in clothing is through your connections. And so I had connections overseas, and my parents' factory liaison, when they did stuff overseas, she came out of retirement and helped me start Freefly. And she lives half the year in Asia, half the year in the US, and was able to work with her and create the product that I wanted and get it off the ground. But still, it was like, that's the easy part. You create something, then you got to go sell it. So, I hit, for the first 2 years, I hit consumer shows all over the country, literally selling shirts out of the back of my truck to, all I knew was fly fishing. So I did fly fishing shows, realized how small that industry was, and then broadened it to, regular fishing, conventional, outdoor, active, and then just started, chipping away at being able to find, where's our niche? Where do we stand out? How do we be different? And we just had a really unique fabric story that no one else did. It was all synthetics and polyester. And so, there's nothing that can replace just grinding and hard work. And that's what it was for the first 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
And I know that bamboo is, that's you guys have revolutionized in my idea of clothing, the bamboo t-shirts and everything. It's super soft.
Yeah.
But when I think of bamboo, I'm thinking of like a stick.
Yeah.
How does it go from a stick to clothing and moving and soft? And how
most people don't even know you can make clothes out of bamboo.
Correct. I didn't know it until I saw your apparel.
Yeah. Nonetheless, bamboo is, such a great renewable resource. And we're like, we weren't doing it just because it's like an eco green story. I was doing it because it was really soft and comfortable. And so, it took years and years of research to figure this out, but there's only one kind of bamboo you can make clothing out of. It's called Moso bamboo. And it's unfortunately only grown in China. So the raw materials only grown in Chinese rainforests, and it's not the hard exterior. They actually pulp it. That's the center of it. They actually take the inside of it, grind it up, and then they'll actually turn that into a yarn. And so that is it's super time consuming. It used to be super like toxic, chemical heavy. When we came along, the process had gotten so much better. They, I won't go super deep into it, but everything's approved by the Global Organic Textile Trade. It's a really good eco process. It just takes a long time and it's super, super damn expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's why no other companies were doing it is you got to know the sourcing. You got to be able to figure out how to, blend it right and make the right fabrics. If it's by itself, it feels like pajamas. If you blend it with what we did, a little bit synthetic, it turns into a great performance fabric. And it just was through trial and error. And we were lucky to find this, we called our secret sauce, like our first shirt we ever created. The shirt you have downstairs at the pit is, our lightweight bamboo fabric that's just super soft and comfortable and wicks and doesn't hold odor. It's like this kind of miracle fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me, how you go about that. And I know the trial and error phase of dealing with China just a little bit because, I patented this sandal concept and
cool.
I'll come out with that a little bit later, but, but the conversations that need to take place, China is opposite time zones. So when I'm speaking to them about the sandal concept and everything like that, number one, you have a language barrier.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. or stay up till 9, 10 at night to be on their same time zones and talk to them and whatnot. So it makes it really difficult.
It does.
Number three is the shipping, especially with these tariffs right now, as you probably are aware of. It's brutal. And so you're going against a lot of these obstacles as opposed to just calling somebody in Connecticut and getting it done. That's where it's difficult for me as somebody that's just starting up a company, is a lot of those barriers. And then say you get the samples that come in and they're 2-3 weeks later than expected because you can't just overnight it like the US.
Yeah.
Because they always got to take freight and, they got to take a ship or whatever they got, however they got to get here. It takes a lot of time. So the trial and error that you must have gone through, and you test out a couple shirts or a lineup of shirts and you don't like them or you want a different blend, then they go back and then it takes 3 weeks for that. From the start of it, right? And you had a concept of what you wanted and you kind of had a feel for what you wanted, but you wanted to make changes. How long does that take, generally speaking, from a shirt that like you don't like to a shirt that you want that? Yeah.
I mean, I need another drink for this one.
Yeah. I'm digging deep. Sorry.
No, it's hard. And that's where like having the family background, having a factory liaison that's done this for 30 years has just been so crucial for me. Cause I'm like, if I knew manufacturing, I knew the clothing industry, like technical stuff that most people do when they get into this business, I probably wouldn't have done it. I knew what I knew as being a consumer and working a little bit in the industry. I was like, I know what I want. I need someone that is actually really deep into it to go, this is what the output I want. Now go figure out and help me make it. And that's what our factory liaison really, like that was her superpower to help me. I mean, her cousins they own these factories that produce for Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and she's giving us preferential treatment because, she has enjoyed going to dinner with my family for 30 years. Like those are things you just can't replace. So, I was super fortunate there, but it came down to planning and timelines and just like going out to the market and seeing what the appetite was. Is this going to work or is it not going to work? And once I figured out it was going to work and people said, hey, I don't just like to fly fish in this. I actually like to paddle, surf, hike, whatever in your product. I was like, okay, this is actually real. This is actually could be a national brand. And so that's when you start getting the sales and you start getting the energy and volume and excitement to hire folks. And, I was fortunate to partner with my sister and brother-in-law. They were at Nike for the previous 10 years. They came and joined me 3 years in. And then just, once we had a little bit of cash flow, hiring people that are really smart and know how to, whether it's inventory planning or production timelines or whatever it is, like I credit just our staff. We have such good people to go and figure this out and help. This is the dream. Now let's go execute it. But it was so much trial and error, especially the first couple of years. So, luckily to have a lot of background experience to help get us to where we're at today.
Yeah, and it's cool of you to say, it almost sounds like it's all rainbows and unicorns right now. Just, we started this.
Still hard.
And you're able now to work with your sister and your brother-in-law and how nice that is. But there had to have been times that you have been tried and you dug through the trenches with this company. You had to have had nights where you were like, fuck it, and I want to give up, and almost did give up, or did you give up and then came back to it? Or can you get on some of that? Because I think a lot of people in this country, average business, I think, is like 3 years. And so a lot of people go through the grind. I've been through it. I have 100% been through it with this gym of like, totally wanting to give up. If somebody were just to take it over for free, I would have given it away at some point. And then something happened, for me. Did you ever have that at all, or those ups and downs where it killed you? And
tons. I mean, tons. And I think the only way, I grew up in a family business, and I'd watch my parents be stressed out every day, and then they come home and still have dinner together. And I was like, it's kind of cool. It's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with someone I trust. And that was family for me. But I mean, we went through, I remember just when I was on my own, going to, trade show in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey, and selling 3 shirts in a weekend and being like, I'd be in tears calling my folks. I'm like, I'm just going to get a job. I mean, I can do sales for anyone, but selling this right now is really hard. And they were so encouraging of like, just keep grinding. You have something special, and had a really good, just support group behind the scenes. But then when we actually had a real brand and there was more at stake, because you have to pay people's salaries like you do, and at that point, 4 or 5 years in, we didn't have a big investor. We had our own blood, sweat, and tears. We bootstrapped it, had a line of credit with a bank, and I was putting my house as collateral. And I'm like, I'm going to work every hour of every day because it's survival, or I don't exist anymore. Yeah. And I can remember a time even like, we'd go in every weekend just because we were so cheap at that point. Like, we were pulling online orders ourselves and, literally wrapping like fishing line on like as a bow, sending out these orders, chasing UPS trucks down the road. One time our vendor overseas forgot to put our logo on all our shirts. So we had thousands of shirts we didn't have a logo on, and they were all kind of wrinkled up. And so we sent them to another printer. They print our logo on them in the US, and we took them for 2 weekends in a row to a laundromat to get the wrinkles out.
Oh, God.
And it's just like that kind of stuff. I'm like, it wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's like, I have to do this or else I don't survive. So I think that kind of grit, especially, growing up in Montana, like the work ethic that I learned through sports and family and all that, like it was the only way that I ever knew. And I'm so thankful that my parents passed on to me. Same for you in sports. It's like, it just was what it was, and you did it, and it's blurry, but now we're here today, and that's what you go through. So it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to get deeper into almost the line of credit and how you go about that, and how you have gone about that, even to get things rolling with inventory as well.
It's hard.
But before I dig into that, I mean, as a competitor now you've stepped up and you've taken on your sister and your brother-in-law as employees to work with you. And I know that they bring a lot to the table for growth and different mindsets. I've watched a couple of your podcasts, which are phenomenal. So but explain, the reasoning, because at some point you always need help in one way or another. Yeah. And I know it's stressful bringing on one employee. Nonetheless, how many employees do you have now?
We have 80 now.
80 employees. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand on the employment side is how stressful it is to be you.
Yeah.
They're always wanting to work, and they believe in the cause and they believe in the company. They don't understand how much, as a founder, it stresses you on a day-to-day basis. You're worried about the markets. You're worried about if things sink or whatnot every day, because you're worrying now about their livelihood and their families beyond yours. Right.
Oh yeah. It's brutal. I mean, it's the best and worst thing, because if you ask anyone, hey, what are you most proud of? What's your biggest accomplishment? I say our people. We have such good people, and we have really young staff. They're dynamic. They're smart. They're hungry. They buy into our vision. But we can talk about it later. As part of the reason moving back to Montana is like, I eat, breathe, and live. Like, I almost live their lives for them to make sure that they're going to be okay. And I want to make sure that all our people are taken care of. And if there's shit going on behind the scenes with our bank or our factory, they don't need to know it, but I'll carry that stress for them. And that's the journey of every entrepreneur. I want them to know that you got to work your tail off to make it, but I'm going to try to do everything I can as your boss to make sure that I set you up for every opportunity for success. And so, the stress it's not, most people aren't cut out for it. You know, it's why I'm, 37 and have a lot of gray hair. It's just, it is what it is. But I wouldn't have any other way. You know, it's like eat what you kill and the highs are so high and the lows are really low. And so if you can try to strike that balance and, hang up work and be able to have dinner with your wife and kids at the end of the day, it feels good. But it's taken me 15 years to get to the point where I can, at 5 o'clock hang it up and be like, okay, I'm fine no matter how good or bad work was today.
Yeah. And then just come back as dad.
Yep.
Your dad.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. Speaking of, we talked on the lows a little bit, you know, was there ever, and we just got done with the NFL draft and you hear some of these kids that they finally made it and they're crying because they made it. And that's the cool thing about playing in the NFL and things like that is there's a true sight to making it. There's a true sight to winning a Super Bowl or whatever like that. Business is really hard because there's never a Super Bowl to be won is what I'm learning. And I have learned for the last 9 years of this business is like, I'm constantly creating new goals, trying to keep things new, everything for my staff, for myself, everything like that. But you got to take wins. And did you ever get just one big win that got you out of a groove or a couple where you're just like, there's something here?
Yeah. I think early on, I tell the story a lot that like when we realized fly fishing industry was so small, fly fishing is my favorite thing in the world, but it's so small. It's hard for a clothing company to make money in fly fishing. And we realized it was too small for us to actually compete and grow a national brand. I was like, outdoors where I want to be. And there's a small chain of stores in the Southeast called Half Moon Outfitters. They're based in Charleston and they had like 8 locations. I was like, if I can get in there, I've made it, And so at that point we were doing a lot of logo business. And so I'd go print their logo on it and go try to sell and be like, hey, this is what your shirt could look like, know? And they said no like 10 times. And finally after that, selling it. And finally they said yes and had this big success where like they put it in all their doors. And that actually was like this big catapult to like get us into all these other stores around the country. And we're like, if Half Moon's doing it, like they're world-class independent outdoor store. But then there's all these moments of like either being at a music festival, in Austin, Texas, or, I'm trying to think of like, we used to do a lot of podcast. Like we went on Joe Rogan's podcast and I'm listening to Joe Rogan talking to Wiz Khalifa and being like, there's a story about this guy who's a fishing guide and his brother, sister from Nike. And he's like, they tried to make this, really comfortable clothing shirt. And he's like, and I got to say, and I was like, on pens and needles, he's like, they fucking nailed it. And I was like, hell yeah. Joe Rogan thinks it's cool, and he won't take, he takes 1 out of 10 products that try to advertise on his podcast. If he doesn't believe in it personally, he won't do it. And so there's like those little pinch me moments that are like, man, this is really cool. We had an TV ad on during Super Bowl, which was really cool a few years ago. Things like that people are like, I saw you here, saw you there. And I'm like, I can't take credit for it personally, but I'm so proud of the brand and the people that created this. And it's just super fun to see it on a bigger level than I ever imagined.
I mean, I can't even imagine having a Super Bowl ad, and Joe Rogan. And so, it's there, and you even go into, I think I saw it in Bob Ward's the other day. Now you're seeing it all over Montana. I know you're predominantly Southeast.
Yeah, warm weather, mainly trying to get out here more.
But you're seeing it more and more around here, which is, it's
fun.
So cool. I mean, it's cool for me, and I don't even have anything to do with the company, just knowing you and knowing that you're the founder and seeing, just a buddy, representing in a big level. It's exciting.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, speaking of how you have kind of these pipelines all over to Montana. I mean, all over the country. You're going against Goliath at this point. Now you're going against the Patagonias, the Sims. I don't even know, but big companies. So with this growth is probably great, but there's got to be new headaches with growing and keeping up with the big dogs, and probably being on a Super Bowl commercial is cool, but you're in true competition mode now. You're not just a one guy out on the street selling shirts and you're happy to bring home a few bucks from this concept that you made. Can you go in depth on the marketing strategy meetings that you have and, how you kind of attack that aspect?
Yeah. As you get out there, it is once you have a little bit of success, it feels like, man, hey, we did something. And now it's like, it's either a knockoff or copycat or these other really big clothing brands that you're trying to lobby for floor space in these retail stores. And you've got to stand out and you've got to be different. And our approach has always been, a Montana guy, growing up here and moving to South Carolina. I'm like, I'm not going to try to pretend to be like everyone else. And that's the same thing I feel about our brand is like, I think authenticity is the word that comes to mind of like, we truly believe everything that we say and do as a brand. And I think most brands out there, you talk, the ones you brought up, like they're great brands. They're North Star brands I look up to. But I think the thing that sets us apart is like, we as a brand, we want to feel human. We want to feel authentic. And so whether it's an Instagram post that we're actually having a dialogue with customers or being able to practice what we preach and have summer Fridays for our staff that, leaves at 2:00 on Fridays and goes and on the water or goes to the beach, whatever. And like, it is the product that we built and the things that we build it for, we truly believe it. And we want to stand out as like, here's our niche. We make really comfortable stuff. We're not trying to fake it. Like the brands that do really well in either winter or swim, like things that are not our number one expertise, like go do your thing. That's great. I think most outdoor brands, they kind of celebrate this pain and suffering. Like you look at, not to pick on Sims, but you look at a Sims ad and it's like these guys in the freezing rain and like they're having the worst day of their lives. I'm like, I want to celebrate the best times. I want to celebrate summer in Montana, floating to Madison in July. It's like, that's the things. And people having a really fun time doing it. It's not just for the hardcore guys, it's for your entire family. And I think if you can cut through with that and create really good content and create real stories and authentic people, and that is how you actually do stand out instead of just fake it to make it. Like have real people doing real things, and that's what people buy into.
Yeah, I met, or my wife Danny met Sage.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, one of your guys' family friend or your friend, but also she represents everything for apparel wise. Her and her husband, right?
Yeah, they're great.
Danny said that she was awesome, and they're in X-Flax fishing. Permit down there, and they ran into each other and got along. And I think I know they text like weekly now, so it's cool.
That's
but
cool.
She said the exact same thing. Too, you probably don't hear it, coming from people that work under you or work with you on different things, but it's all positive, and good. You follow somebody like Sage's page and stuff. You're like, it is free. She's living the life. Yeah. She's doing the deal. Like you're up here, you're doing a lot of meetings and stuff, but she's living the life and rocking apparel, and it fits exactly your culture that you've kind of begun, or you have rolling.
Yep.
And then with that being said, you're a big culture guy. Yep. I know that from just talking to you one-on-one. Every conversation you bring in, it's teamwork. It's how you create a family within your family, and there's beyond just partnering your sister and your brother-in-law in. Now you have these employees. Now you're doing I like how you set up meetings. How do you do it quarterly, monthly, annually? How do you I watched on another podcast, you're big in Traction, which I absolutely love that book. I read it once a year.
It's a great one.
And you start with the rocks, but for our viewers, would you get in depth a little bit more of how you look at meetings, how you tackle problems, everything like that, and how often? For sure.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think that the big thing is like if you have a team and you have people that are contributing to your success, we want everyone bought in from the day one. So we'll, as a leadership team and our leadership team and board, 8 to 10 people at the beginning of every year set out goals. Look at the last year. What was our after action, wins, losses? What can we do better? And then set these really high goals that seem tough to attain, but we know we can get there if we have a good team. And so we break down annual goals, quarterly goals, and then, what do we need to do on a weekly, monthly level to get there? And so, we've set up a meeting structure. It's varied a little bit over the years, but feeling like everyone's bought in. And so everyone that's in a meeting should have, my worst nightmare is like you have a meeting, say you're talking to all your staff and you talk the entire time and it's like 10 people just staring at you, just like twiddling their thumbs. It's like, if we're in a meeting, you need to be bought in, you need to know the goal, and everyone needs to participate. And so that is a big thing for us is like, there's no bad ideas. Bring everything to the table. Let's figure out how to solve your problems, and let's do it, starting on today and then weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. And we all have the same vision. So if people don't buy into the vision, like that's one thing I look for day one on an interview. If you're really, arrogant and this is all about me, whatever, like, no way. But if you can actually buy into the vision and say, I did my research. I love what you guys are doing. I want to be a part of it. And here's what I think I can bring to the table. It's like, you're going to be a huge contributor, and this is the person I want to be a part of all this. So all that to be said, it feels super collaborative. We have a CEO. When we brought on a capital partner a few years ago, and it was the three of us running this business, and we're like, this business is way bigger than we ever thought it would get to. We need to bring in someone that's super smart and can get us to the next level, but also feels human and feels like they're part of us. And so it was the funnest process in my life. It was like, I'm interviewing people from Nike, Adidas, like these big brands. I'm like, you should be interviewing me. Like, I don't feel like I deserve to be in the room with you. But we ended up landing on our recruiter called us one day, and she's like, this is the hardest search I've ever found, because we are so big on culture. Mm-hmm. And we're like, we found a unicorn. You need to talk to her. And she came to Charleston, and she shows up to dinner like at this nice steakhouse, and she's wearing like a t-shirt and jeans. I'm like, you're our kind of people.
Yeah. One of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, and she spent her first 3 weeks interviewing everyone at our company, being like, what do you love about working here? How can I make it better? And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that we talk about in meetings, that we want people to like live and breathe this. And so it just comes down to the people, and it comes down to having a really good vision and people that can carry that through. And so, yeah, I've skipped over a lot of things, but it's the people that bring it to life, that can take an actual goal and then actually go execute it. And just like EOS Traction is such a good framework for that.
Yeah. Is a lot of your meetings monthly, weekly, quarterly, are they all financial?
No. They're I've always been on the marketing sales side. There's plenty of stuff behind the scenes, but our leadership team, we meet a couple times a week, and we talk about, some are very financial, but a lot of them are just, where are you struggling? How can I help you? Let's all put our heads together and figure out how to get us out of where we're at now and get to where we need to be. And that's what I love. I was like, I am not the smartest person in the room. I don't have the best ideas, but as a team, 7, 8, 10 people, we can figure it out together. So it varies. It's across the board. But, but no, just really good, smart people that share a common vision.
Yeah. That's the dream, though, on the sense of not being bought out, but people being interested, and then putting your company out there. Yeah. So you got to get an evaluation on your company, right? Yeah. And have professionals do all that for you, which is probably time consuming, expensive, all the things. Oh, yeah. But then it's probably a little bit nerve wracking. Like, are we worth it at some point? Like, will somebody buy in on this company and see the vision, see where we're going with it? Is that, it's cool that you had that and you've been through it, because I think that's a lot of business owners' dream, to not necessarily just sell your company. Yes, eventually you got to sell your company, or your kids take it over or something like that, which is great. But you got to always keep that in the back of your mind. But to almost have somebody come in, see the value of it, and say, hey, I want to be with you on the ride. That's huge.
It's huge. We almost did a deal that wasn't that was like, we sell the company, your name goes away. It's like, you're invisible. You're just you're a cog in the wheel. The group that we came across, their Bozeman base, which was number one awesome for me. It was like, that was kind of our lucky ticket to get back to Montana. But the dream was to have someone that we weren't shopping for it at all. It just kind of came out of the blue, a random cold email that was like, we want to take a minority stake, but we want to stay behind the scenes. We want to give you all the things that you need to go get to the next level, but we're not going to be looking over your shoulder doing it. And I was like, that seems too good to be true. There's no way that's real. And once we met them, and it was good Montana people and outdoor industry veterans, they were who they say they were, and it was great. And we still have so much to accomplish. And we're not at the top of the mountain, but we know we can get there. And there's not a lot of pressure. And so for us, it was like a dream come true, because all I know is family business, and they feel like an extension of our family. So it's really, really solid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you dig in a little bit more on the line of credit? I think it's good for people to learn this, how you can go about an SBA or a line of credit to get the ball rolling. How did you even start with a line of credit? You mentioned it earlier, but how do you buy inventory? I know you probably got to buy quite a bit of bulk inventory. Do you still use a line of credit for inventory and stuff like that?
Yeah, we still do today. Like, we're in a very, our business model is unique, where there's not, rolls of fabric of our fabric sitting around in, factories around the country or around Asia. It's if I run out of a large, lightweight, bamboo hoodie that's in blue today, it's 9 to 10 months before I get that again.
Wow.
So behind the scenes, the planning for that's insane, but also the capital expense of being able to go pay for it in advance, take the time to, from manufacturing to get it here. And so there's a lot of planning that takes, but yeah, it's super cash intensive. And so for us, we're lucky that we have a few different sales channels, but wholesale selling to retailers. I think we have 3,000 retail doors around the country now. They go out, our reps go out and they pre-book this business 9 months in advance. So we know right now we're selling into spring 2026. And so we'll know July this summer what our bookings look like from all retailers next year. And so we go to a bank and say, hey, this is what our projection is. We actually have orders that are written that are in our system. So there's a little bit of, they're happy to know that like there's orders written, there's going to be sales out the door, and they're going to loan you this much money to be able to go produce the fabric and be able to build product for that. And so that's a big part of it. Obviously, you need to have good cash flow, healthy balance sheet, and there's a number of factors that go into it. It gets more complicated as you get bigger.
I'm sure,
but being able to have a little bit of security blanket saying this is kind of pre-sold, this is pretty easy money for you in the bank, and that's what's helped lead us to our success of being able to just keep cash flowing the business and keep product moving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Question, just as somebody that wants to learn more about how this even goes about it, but say, okay, so you found this lady, she helps you get the bamboo, everything, designed in China, Asia, then China, right?
Yep.
And now it's getting made in China and shipped over here. Then it goes to a big warehouse distributors. How does that look? Until it gets in my hands as a consumer, how does that look?
Yeah. So we've been fortunate over COVID was a big eye opener for us. We're heavily concentrated. A lot of it was China, but it was other countries as well. We need to diversify our manufacturing at that point. So we're majority Vietnam now. It starts in China from a raw material standpoint, but mainly finished goods come from Vietnam. We float them in the ocean, and we bring them into California normally. But yeah, then we have a fulfillment center. It'll either truck or train, bring it to central of the country, middle of the country. I think we're in Ohio now. And then we'll ship from Ohio, which is most days 2 or 3 days shipping to get to the end consumer or the retail store. But not to give away too much, but we're fortunate that our factory liaison, she owns a transportation company as well. And so we have kind of this like really white glove service to be able to order product and get it to the distribution center and then to customers in a pretty easy fashion compared to what most people are used to. There's normally 8 or 10 different companies along the way that you have to deal with, where it's like, hey, I'm going to get it to your warehouse on this date. And normally it's pretty accurate. Yeah. So we're fortunate in that regard, but man, there are so many steps along the way, and I don't envy we have, QA people, we have production, we have inventory planning, data analysis that do all that stuff behind the scenes. I'm a marketing and sales guy, and I'm like, just make sure you deliver it to our customers on time, and they normally do. So easier said than done, but man, it's a pain in the rear.
Yeah. I mean, that's what kind of reminds me, like when people come up to me for discounts or come up for you for a discount. No, you've never heard this as the owner, but can I get a discount? Which is, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me, because they don't know how much work, effort. Yeah. That's how you feed your family. Not only that, now this is how you feed 70 of your employees' families. Yeah. And you can build a shirt for X amount of money in Vietnam. Yeah. But I don't think people understand how much work has gone into finding that distribution line, getting it there, the shipping, the if it doesn't make it there, all the headaches. The reason why you and I are gray right now, and we're not even 40 yet, and and that's why if you don't own a business, or you I guess you just don't know business enough. I never ask business owners for a discount.
No,
because you know what they're going through and how it pencils, right? And in order to be a competing business in any industry, you have to sharpen your pencil. And so you got to get pretty tight on your margins. I don't care what it is to survive. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. One of my favorite, a good friend of mine who's one of our retailers, whenever his friends ask him for a discount, at like the checkout counter or whatever, he takes a $20 bill out of his register and says, "Here you go. You're taking money out of my pocket, so I might as well just give you some cash right now." It's like he's joking, but he's not joking. It's like you don't know how hard it is to get to where I'm at, and I think the best friends and best people in the world are like, I would love to pay full price for this because I know how hard it is to be in your shoes.
Yeah, correct.
It's tough.
Someone that's I guess you paint a really good picture for owning this business, starting this thing up. But also you don't, because it's kind of hard to, because you said that lady's helped with the distribution. She's helped you with transportation, helped you get it going. If you're somebody that is, 20-year-old kid that was you, 17 years ago, and you're starting out again, you don't have those.
Yeah.
What would you tell them besides just like the inspirational speech of like, you can get it. I know. Go to the moon, kid.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was fortunate to grow up in the business for sure. And I don't discount that at all. I think anyone that's going to get in an industry and want to be an entrepreneur, and you've got to put the time and effort in to go learn the business. I just work with a senior marketing class at MSU talking about the same thing of how do you graduate college in this economy in this day and age and go find a job and actually go create value in this world. And for me, I think the big thing that when I interview people that are coming out of college, you look for those people that seem like they got that twinkle in their eye and they feel like they want to go do something great. But I want to see something like, go find something that you love, go try a bunch of stuff first, but figure out something and try to be the best in the world at it. Well, I don't care if it's social media marketing. I don't care if it's being a great photographer, a video editor, but go learn it. And you can go learn on your own time, on your own dime. It's not expensive. And then you can go approach a brand and say, I'm going to bring this value to, here's why, here's how I'm going to bring value, here's going to make you money, and then go learn the business and do it on a company's dime and learn the whole business, versus just being like, I was fortunate that I was able to start something pretty close out of college and had a lot of good breaks and good people around me to learn along the way and good advice. But you've got to go learn it on your own. There's no replacement of the hard work it takes, but find something you're great at. We found something we're great at as a company. If we create really comfortable clothing to be outside and do the things you love, and that's our niche, do the same thing for yourself. Find something you're great at, define your niche, bring value to people, and then go learn the rest and figure out where you want to be. And hopefully that, snowballs itself into being an entrepreneur. But you've got to do your research and figure out what makes, how does this industry work? How do I, stand out? How do I make myself unique? You just can't expect a resume on a piece of paper to get you a job and create a business.
Totally.
You've got to do more than that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. When people ask me the same kind of reasoning for advice, the one mistake that I made with a gym that I could have saved myself a lot of money on was I should have gone and worked for a gym before owning a gym. And
exactly.
yet I thought I was a know-it-all and I know how to train. I've always known how to train at top facilities around the country, but I didn't know the software, the in and outs, marketing, anything like that. If I was really wise, I'd go work for Roderick at the Ridge.
Exactly.
And learn from a really good guy that's done it for many years and has it pinned down before venturing off into that would have saved me a few bucks. It would have, years.
But the mistakes sting, and it's like, I'll never do that again. And I actually, there's good and bad of all that. I'm like, I wish I would have had someone to tell me, how to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm like, man, that mistake I made, I will never learn. I will never make that again, because it was my own money. It wasn't someone else's money.
Yeah. It's a little different when you play with your own money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when, I love employees' take on things 100%. And like, I think I run the same room as you do culturally, and everybody, I want their input because I'm definitely not the smartest one in the meeting room.
Yeah.
But sometimes the ideas are a little bit skewed where you're like, well, that's a no-go because that's actually my money too, you know, and that's a big investment there. And that's something that we can't afford.
Oh, totally. It's a balance.
I guess just to kind of wrap it up, I don't want to squeeze too much of your time, and I appreciate it. But, well, first off, you met Ristine in Texas.
Yeah.
She's a phenomenal tennis player.
Yep.
Did she win? She got second in the country.
She won state all 4 years. I think she was like the only player in Montana to go 100 and something and 0 in high school. Her team took second at the national championship. I mean, she'd cringe right now if she was in this room, but
make her cringe.
I'm hoping our girls get her athletic abilities, not mine. But yeah, she's just an awesome athlete, even a better person. And so we've just had a really fun time being able to share that together.
Yeah, and then her and CC11 just won pickleball in Billings. Yep. Which there's like 100 teams there, something crazy.
They did well, yeah. They're punching above their weight. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Kind of what she's accomplished and what she is accomplishing. And I heard that you're a hell of a stick on at golf. So
yeah, so
yeah. But you moved back to Montana for a reason.
Yeah.
And you have these 2 daughters that you want to enjoy. It just seems like you have a really good work-life balance. And for a guy that's not even 40 yet, you got figured out beyond years. Can you just explain a little bit what you want to, press onto your daughters now? Like, how do you look at them? Because I have boys, so it's so different. It's pretty easy with boys. Like, yes, I spank my boys. If I had daughters, I don't know if I could do that.
It's a little different.
But then on the other side is like, I'm pretty hard on my boys because I think that we need better quality men to be raised in the future, right?
Yeah.
And so, how does it look as a dad for raising daughters and moving back to Montana now? And give me a little insight on that.
Yeah, it's I guess backtracking. A lot's happened in the last 15 years, and when I was living in Charleston, I actually worked with this leadership coach, and when things were really chaotic, and I was just like, man, I can't see in front of me right now, like just employee stress, trying to sell the business, all these things going on. He asked me a question. He said, if in regards to the relationship with your wife and kids, if that relationship could talk out loud, what would it say it needed? And I was like, it needs a dad. It needs a really good dad. And I'm so stretched right now. I can't be that good of a dad. And it was like a light bulb switched, and I was like, we need to be back in Montana. Like I love Charleston. It's an amazing place. I love going back there. It was just too busy and too hectic, and I just could wear work on my sleeve too much. It was getting harder and harder to hang it up. And I was like, we got a capital partner in Bozeman. We're from Montana. I want our kids to have a really good work ethic and understand what it takes to make it in this world. And it felt like a little bit superficial in the place we were at. And so moving back here was like, it was the best thing in the world. It was hard. It was hard moving anywhere with kids, but it's been amazing because it's created balance in my life, and I can work from home. I'm still working hard, but trying to figure out how we grow this brand out west and how we win out here. But our main investor, he was CEO of one of the biggest media companies in the world, and he told me day one, he's like, I asked him one of his proudest accomplishments. He's like, taking my kids to school every day. It's my favorite thing. I'm like, dude, you ran this humongous media company. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to take my kids to school. I want to pick them up a lot of days. I want to be able to coach their sports and work hard and play hard. And you got this backdrop in Montana. It's like, it's a huge win for all of us. And so, yeah, we're not looking back. I loved growing up here. I loved, you go through a winter here. It's been 15 years. And I just went through January, February was a tough winter here, So I'm like, now I can't wait to be outside. I can't wait for my girls to not be on iPads. I want to be going down the river and fishing and doing all these fun things. So it's all come full circle. And I think you gain perspective on the things that are really important in this world. And so, love being back here. I love working hard and playing hard and trying to raise kids that are hopefully going to be meaningful to the world someday.
Yeah, I think that's a great outlook. And those are the type of people I want to be around. I mean, I appreciate you and your wife being part of the gym here.
Oh, we love it.
Being part of our community. But that's right when we met you guys and went to Ristine's 40th birthday and everything like that. And I was like, this is the type of people that I want to support. So we threw our whole old line out the window and redid our whole front entryway and everything with all Freefly stuff. Because that's your brand is unbelievable. I love the clothes. It's more comfy than anything, but more so I want to support other people that are like-minded and that, we share a lot in the same commonalities. And I think that's awesome. So I appreciate everything that you do for the community, for us here at the pit, everything like that.
Well, likewise, we're big fans, excited to be here and excited what we can do together. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you.